Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is another episode of Afterlife Pod. I almost forgot there what this show is called. I know it's just a name, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, there you go. Afterlife Pod. I am Nick Tubb, and thank you for joining me again. Today I'm going to read another experience from enderf.org. This one is from enderf.org. I'll just start reading it now. I was lying in my bed. It was dark in my room. However, not very late. I could hear my family watching TV in the living room. It was outside my bedroom door. I was not asleep, yet not completely awake either. I was actually taking. I was actually talking to myself inwardly. I was thinking about what actually happened when we died, and if what I believed to be true was really indeed true. I have always been one to question everything in life. I have always been one to need to experience something to actually believe it. Faith. I was never good at faith. I always was in my head, thinking about everything, even though throughout my entire life I had always been intuitive and had seen things most people hadn't. From a very young age, I had always questioned it all. I always sought validation for my feelings and emotions, and even when those feelings seemed to be greater than the sum of myself, I was always searching. Suddenly, I saw a pinpoint of light in the left-hand corner of the room. I was so surprised, so amazed. It wasn't there a second ago. I remember I said to myself, "What is that?" Then I felt a pull upwards, a release, and I knew my physical body had remained on the bed below me. As soon as I had acknowledged the light, I was in it. I can't even tell you a language or the colours that I saw. Reds, greens, purples, and blues that I'd never seen before. The colours themselves were alive. They were all around me, as if I were in a wormhole of thought. I felt a tunnel-like presence surround me, and the swirling of colours and lights was amazing. Amazing doesn't even begin to describe it, though, but there are no other words I can use. Life-altering. Yes, that probably works here. It was just that. I was being pulled upwards and outwards all at the same time. I retained the ability to think just as I usually did, and I was still talking to myself. I didn't see my hands or feet. It felt like I was a being of pulsating energy sliding around. Feeling would be similar to being on a water slide, sliding up instead of sliding down. When I was pushed out of the end of this tunnel, I found myself in a belt of what looked like stars, both above me and below me. I wasn't exactly immersed within the stars because they weren't in close enough proximity for me to touch. Yet they were everywhere, above and below me. I had to take a second. I tried to empty my mind of all thoughts. Just then, I was aware of a space in front of me. It was like a corridor of sorts. Before I finished my thoughts about what it might be, I was in it. Boom! I was just there. I saw a sparkling light at the end of the corridor. I deliberately didn't initiate feeling of wanting to be there. And at the end of the corridor, because honestly, I just wanted to stay right where I was. And I knew if I had that thought, I would be there. And at the end of it, immediately, this, whatever it was, maybe not best described as a corridor, was luminous all by itself. It was definitely within something. And I could tell there was see-through translucent areas as well. I guess the best way to describe it would be as a hologram. And then there, to the left on the screen, was my life. I could see it. Me. I saw and felt all of my choices in this lifetime. There was absolutely no judgment attached to it. None. I wasn't judging my life, I was simply seeing it. To the right, it was dark, dim. I felt like the right side was reserved for when I actually did physically die. I would be privy then. It contained all the possibilities of all the angles, all the decisions I'd ever made, laid out in different realms. As if, let's say, I'd decided not to get married when I did, what my life would have been like. And it was actually played out, but not in a physical way. It was still acted out. It was all the probables in my life. I asked in thought or feeling, not with my voice, why I was here. My voice told me that it was because I had asked to be there. I knew this voice. It was comforting and familiar, and I knew it was God. But how was that possible? I immediately questioned the voice about its being female. I had always envisioned God to be male. I had expected to be greeted in a male voice. I was shocked to hear and feel that I had chosen this voice because it was mine. It was my voice. I suddenly knew that I was part of the universe. I was not separate. I was not some being cast into a world and separate from God. I was God, if you will. I was part of the universe, or what you want to call it. I knew then and there we are all a part of this life force. It was all encompassing and around me. I felt as if I were a balloon giving air, expanding and then contracting. I was free, and yet I was connected to this voice. This voice was a layer of a billion other souls speaking. I can't describe it. I knew I was not alone there, but actually felt and saw a billion souls of light behind a hazy, almost curtain-like substance in front of me. I was delirious with the feelings of love and hope. I could feel every other soul's compassion and love for me. It was the most overwhelming yet extraordinary thing. I heard the thoughts of everyone, yet it wasn't craziness, like voices in one's head. It was all thoughts, but it all made sense. I knew the images that I wasn't able to see on the right were also of all the lives I was living, all at the same time. This was completely foreign to me, as I had always believed in reincarnation and past lives, not simultaneous lives. I didn't even know if it was a possibility. Now knew it was. Why would we live all lives all at once? Wasn't the purpose to evolve through each life and to live and learn and do better than it go around? Evidently not really. I got the distinct impression we're living lives to raise consciousness. By raising the vibration around us, we change the earth, we change the experience of life. I felt so safe, so complete. It was apparent how fractured I'd been, I had felt before, how separate I'd felt. Even though I'd always known we were connected as people, I didn't know we were all the same. We all have the same knowledge within us. I went forward to the end of the corridor towards the haziness of beautiful lights. I noticed an old boyfriend of mine. He was holding flowers of pink and white. He moved from the outside of the corridor towards me. I felt his love and was baffled as to why he was even there. I didn't know he had passed away some years earlier. I had no idea. I had often thought about him and missed him. A teenage love I hadn't seen in years. I thanked him for being there. I turned to the right and saw my then father-in-law's mother. She had her arms extended towards me. I hadn't known her in real life that well before she passed away. She looked like she looked like she did when she did pass away. White hair, pretty smile. I asked her why she still didn't look. I asked her why she did. I asked her why did she still look so old. Then she changed into a beautiful young girl. She told me her form was dependent on her own will. She could be anything and everything. I thanked her for being there, also, but asked why my own grandfather wasn't there. She stated he was very busy, and he was always there, always around me, as we are all part of the same energy source. I was handed an orange crayon. Yes, crayon. I was told I needed to let go of all my fears. I was instructed to write them in the air. I did. I started writing the exact words: fear, lost love, frustration, hate, unworthiness, all of my hurt feelings towards others and myself. I was told to release them. As I wrote, the top of the list faded, like a scroll of some kind. I felt incredible. I felt like I was perfect, like everything was as it should be. Every piece of the puzzle was in place. I was aware of things on the outlying edges of my own consciousness, like all I had to do was focus on them, and they were already there. I just allow them into my sight. Everything I could ever want was available. I just had to let it in, see it. Kind of like when you lose something. You go back, look, and look in the same places. Suddenly, 10th time you open the drawer, you see it there. It wasn't magically put there. It was just there the entire time and you didn't see it. Now I saw it. It was the law of manifestation right in front of me. Now everything is there. I just have to let it come forward. I got rid of all this fear and all the feelings it created. I could effortlessly let it roll into my line of vision. It was already mine. I just needed to see it. I wanted to go behind the veil. I thought of it, half expected to be sucked into it, but I wasn't. I was told I couldn't enter the realm just yet, as I was needed back in my body. And that was behind the curtain, is reserved for when my life expired on it. I asked what it was like behind there. I was told, or more like felt, it was all peace, love, and understanding. I understood that thoughts create form, so I pictured myself in a huge, glorious house. It was strange because actually felt my own ego. I had never felt my ego separate from itself. My ego wanted some big, elaborate house, but not every other soul there needed some big, huge house. They all created something for themselves that was healing, and I knew behind that curtain, healing and love, understanding, all without the presence of ego or judgment awaited. I knew I was the only one judging myself. I was even judging my house. Ego was not part of the afterlife. I could feel a pull into the middle of my being, and I knew my time left there was very limited. I didn't want to leave. I felt too complete and whole. I felt loved, love, real love, not the kind of peppered with judgment and scrutiny love we get here on earth. I was part of something. I wasn't different. I was the same. I asked, with my feelings, if I could please just get a fleeting glimpse of what it will be like when it is my time to die. Suddenly, without warning, I heard and felt the loudest party. I felt and saw my parents and friends and a million other beings clapping for me, welcoming me home. I saw the brightest light I'd ever seen. It was like a warm mollusk, and it filled every single speck of my being. The light was love, pure love. It was so spectacular that I cried just writing about this. I was wanted, I was loved, I was needed. I felt like a place had been waiting for me and would be waiting for me when it was really my time. That warm sunshine, thick mollusk's yellow light was alive with feelings, abundant and forgiving and self-forgiveness. For a split second, I knew what it felt like to be free of all worldly attachments. An understanding will forever stay with me. I know that I am the creative force within my own life, that what I think and feel about others and myself affects my surroundings. I didn't have to think a certain way to be accepted. I just was. I stood in the magnificent light and understood I carry that inside of me every single day of my life. It hasn't abandoned me. It is a part of me. As soon as I realized that, I felt a jerk backwards. Boom. No descent backwards with colours and beauty like there had been on the way there. I was just back where I'd started, in my dark bedroom, and immediately began to cry. That's the end of that experience. From Laurie, yeah, it's a good one. I think it touches on a few points there without going into too much detail. Well, top of my head, she's learning about manifestation. She's learning, which is a topic that is quite, it's becoming pretty mainstream these days that people visualize and picture what they want to happen, and supposedly that uh, is what is a good path to getting exactly what you want. I guess I tried this a little bit, about a year, 2 years ago, no, about 18 months ago. I just wrote down on a bit of paper and left it at my desk in terms of I'd see it on a regular basis. I just wrote down move to Melbourne, and then months went by. I hadn't really done a lot, and then I thought, okay, I better start putting some smaller steps to see that this actually happening. And yeah, and so I wrote down, find a place. How do I get my car over there? Sort out a job, all those sort of things. And as each one slowly got ticked off over the next 12 months, I ended up getting there. So, is that what people mean by manifestation? Just picturing it and then starting actions towards obtaining that goal. I guess that's what it means. Or you can just visualize it. No, certain athletes or sportsmen visualize winning games or running the fastest time, and they say that helps them as well. So I guess it doesn't hurt, does it? So it's good advice for us all. If there's something we really want, we should start taking steps to achieving that thing we want. And like this person says, at our core, we are pure, creative, intelligent, loving, powerful beings that can get exactly what they want in the afterlife. So why should that be any different here in the physical reality? If she says all she has to do is think something, and then bam, she's there, or bam, she has it. It's like a magic thing, and obviously that part of us is still within us in this realm that we're in right now. And, people are able to attract to them what exactly it is they desire in the same fashion, I guess, that dolls do. It's just got that veil or that physical barrier to break through. It's not quite as easy or as magical as instant, or instant as it is in this other dimension. It's still pretty special. So, if you can work on that, if there's something you really want, and everyone wants something, maybe you should start visualizing that in your head as a first step into obtaining that goal. Yeah, I'll just go through it again. This one for me, it sounded a little bit familiar, but I've watched so many of these now. It is possible that I have repeated one, and if that's the case, I'm sorry if that's what's happened. But a lot of these um, experiences are very similar, and I could just mixing it up with another one that has a similar sort of message. But I do have a system in place to stop this from happening. I write down the names of everyone in a Word document, and before I read one out, I double check that name isn't obviously an episode I've already done. But the problem is, one website labels these experiences through names. This one's called Laurie E. And the other website I read off, the iams.org website, doesn't put names, it just gives the experience the title, God is love, something like that. So what I'm saying is both stories might be on each website, with a different title to it. So yeah, that's where I could be getting mixed up. Anyway, doing my best not to repeating that experience. And I think I've managed to avoid that up till now. And this one has parts that are similar, but not the whole thing. Has seemed a little bit new to me. So hopefully it's new to you as well. So Laurie, she doesn't actually die. She's just lying there. So this is more of a spiritually transformative experience, a near-death experience. She's just lying in bed. She can hear her family watching TV in another room, and she's not really asleep, but not really awake. Like this, I usually this sort of lucid feeling around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I'll wake up after a few good hours of solid dark, motionless out to a sleep, and then once your body gets that needed rest and that unconscious is able to recharge a bit, and then you just sort of lay there and you'll be asleep for 10 minutes, you'll be awake for 5, and then you'll off again for another half an hour, and wake up again for a bit, and this, this is when the body is in that lucid state where it's able to seemingly transgress the body into this other dimension. I can relate to this a little bit, although I've never really had an out of body experience, so to speak, as vivid as this. Anyway, my dreams become a lot more noticeable at that time in the morning, and everything becomes a little bit more. You've got one foot in this physical realm and one in this more dream-like place. Dreams become a lot more vivid. Yeah, I've never actually managed to totally leave my body and jump to this dimension like Laurie has this time. But I sort of understand what's going on here. She's really relaxed. I guess this is sort of what people want to get to this sort of state of good meditation. Just want to leave their body and be able to, get away from all their problems. And when you're super relaxed, you do sort of go to that, I don't know, that dreamy, otherworldly state. You might still be in your body, but you can see how people are able to go from that level to the next. I'm not yet to get there myself, but be practicing my meditation and see if I can uh, then. And if I do, I'll be on this podcast and I'll be the first to tell you all about it. So she's not a religious girl. She's just, she says she lacks a bit of faith in her life. She's a big thinker, so I can relate to Laurie a lot. Yeah, I was all like this when I was younger, just constantly lost in my head, lost in my thoughts, always, thinking, trying to analyze stuff, and I think most people are. It's the way we as humans are raised, taught at a very young age to learn. I mean, we start kindergarten or preschool when we're 3 or 4 years old, and where our learning journey ends. And there's nothing wrong with learning and becoming smarter and being better critical thinkers, but obviously that is a big part of what blocks us from experiencing or having a close relationship with what the soul is and what connects us to everything else. And when we get taught at a young age, we get taught to think and analyze and work out the world around us at a pretty same level. And this, leads to us overthinking a lot of other things in life that don't need to be overthought, unfortunately, or did anyway. So, yeah, I can relate to her. She thinks a lot. She wants to understand exactly what God is. And I think and most people like this. They want the experience with God. They don't want to be taught what God is in a book. They want to know for themselves exactly what God is and therefore exactly what's inside of them because it's the same thing. And I can see where she's coming from here. And to her luck, and I guess ours, because we get to share in this experience now, she sees a pinpoint of light in the room. And then suddenly the room becomes full of these unbelievable colours that seemed alive and weren't, part of this reality that we experience with our own physical 3D eyes. It's colours she's never seen before. And goes, life amazing isn't a word to describe exactly what it looks like. It felt more life altering. Yeah, she's just having the time of her life. And then she moves on to the next part of the experience where she travels down a tunnel and there's stars and above her and below her. And this, for me, the way I picture it is she's just traveling through the universe, through space, seeing galaxies, and they're flying by, and she's getting a bit of a tour of the universe at this point. And she's still thinking. She said, still, she still thinks, he is her own person. Although she can't see a hand or feet or a body of any kind, she still has this essence that she is herself. She's still able to see and think about things, and then she thinks, well, maybe if I try not to think so much and empty my mind of my thought, as she thinks that, it's like boom, she's in another corridor, and she is able to start directing the path she takes from here. She thinks, okay, I want to be over there. Instantly, she's over there. And I want to be at the end of that corridor over there. I think she's in that location suddenly. And she plays around with this new ability, I guess, for a while. And then she hears a voice. And the voice is God. And she's quite surprised because this voice is female, and she thinks, "Hang on a second, I know whose voice this is. This is my voice." And her voice is representing God, and it is talking to her. It doesn't go into detail as to what they actually talk about, but I think it's something. The whole message of this experience is to get a better understanding and to give this lady a bit of faith and confidence in the fact that we are eternal beings and we are always connected. And it doesn't seem like it is, there is much connection in this world at times. We are connected to these other beings and God and consciousness, and it's just a lesson to her, I think, to get a bit of faith and belief back into her spiritual practice. That's this impression, this knowledge, this feeling we are all part of this life force. She herself, she's free and she's connected to this voice, and there's it's like this voice, a billion other souls speaking to her at the same time, but at the same time it's God and her. It's this common theme for near-death experiences where people will cross over and then they'll find there themselves and then merge into this oneness almost. And this oneness is constructed by billions of other separate consciousnesses. And this is it's hard to explain because you can't have a oneness and a billion different entities. I guess somehow it is the same, and somehow we do merge into this collective, I don't know, hive, some people call it, like a beehive, or all just there one, but when we're all together, when all these separate entities come together, we form one collective, and somehow we still maintain our sense of individuality, but also a feeling of being one with it. So that's the best way I can put it into words from what I've read. Right? It's, you're one, but you're separate at the same time. That makes sense. And as per usual, we get the delirious feelings of love and ecstasy and absolute joy. It's a good place to be. This other dimension. Most it's good to know, isn't it? We can look forward to going there ourselves, and we can understand these are where the people we've lost have gone to. So great. And then this experience continues. She starts to hear the voices of all these other souls, and but it all makes sense. It's not overwhelming. She's able to actually understand exactly what they're saying to her, and fire off responses to multiple beings all at once. And it's obviously mind blowing. Speaking, I struggle to, you can't have a conversation with more than one person at a time here. You've got to put your focus on one conversation. Everyone knows what it's like to have two people talking to you at the same time. It's just possible. You know, to try and even understand how this works, beyond my comprehension. She continues on with this explanation of how she felt in this next dimension, which is always good to hear because everyone has their own unique sort of spin on exactly what it's like. She says she feels so safe, so complete, and she gets, now she understands a little bit better of how fractured she felt on Earth, how separate it was like to be a human, and understands that this isn't always the case. You lose your body, you lose your ego, and with that, you gain this connectedness. So it seems this life we live on earth is a lesson, an experience in separation, even though we aren't really separate. Most of us think that we are. We are this little being, this little entity walking around that's having its own little experience. And from that perspective, we are separate. But when we remove our bodies, when we remove our egos, our minds, underneath, we are all connected and we are all made of the same things. She goes on and she sees her ex-boyfriend, who she didn't know had died, and he's one of the beings who has come to greet her in this next dimension. She's a little bit surprised at that, and she's also met by someone else, which is a little surprising. Her father-in-law's mother. So I'm just trying to get my head around that. So I've never been married, but um, okay, yeah, okay. So that's a pretty random contact to have come in. You wouldn't have thought. So it's like a grandmother-in-law, basically, and you wouldn't have thought they would have. That person wouldn't have had much of a bearing on her life. She pretty much says as much. She says she's a little bit surprised that this person has come to rate her in this next realm. She's kind of wondering to herself, why hasn't her own grandfather come to meet her? And she's a little bit confused. She says to this lady, her father-in-law's mother, "Wow, you look old." Pretty rude thing to say, but she said, "Why do you still look so old?" And when she says that, this woman emerges in her prime and looks beautiful. She did in her youth. Not that youth is always beautiful. I mean, obviously, it's certain appeal to the youth, and but yeah, you can see in just about everyone. It doesn't matter if they've got a few hairs and some wrinkles. Our society is so focused on youth and beauty. I'm beginning to notice it now because I'm getting into almost 50, 47. So, I've moved past that obsession with looks and beauty. And it's, it's a shame that we put so much value on looking pretty and young in our society because that just leads to heartbreak for those majority of us who aren't in that super beautiful category are always trying to obtain something that is attainable, and I don't know, it should be drilled into us from a young age. It doesn't matter how you look, it's not going to be happiness anyway. And even those people who are super, super good looking aren't necessarily going to be overwhelmingly happy. It's just an illusion, and everyone's got their own problems inside. It doesn't matter how they look on the outside. It's all about us working on our inner self, improving our well-being that way, rather than trying to rely on exterior factors to make ourselves feel a little bit better on the inside. does help a little bit. It's not going to help long term. It's like, you go, I've never been to get my makeup or nails done, but that's what women do on a regular basis. And I'm not knocking that. If it helps you to feel a little bit better, good. It quickly goes away, and then you're back to your normal self again. And it's one of those things, like everything in life. It'll give you a temporary high, just like buying a new car or uh, having a nice meal. You'll get that nice bit of pleasure, but it's the rates of nothing. You're back to the drawing board. So if you can rely on less, and like they say, less is more. If you can just work on loving yourself on the inside, I think it's probably, well, I'm finding anyway, it's a better way to getting that peace and contentment. But so elusive sometimes. So yeah, I'm just flicking through these last couple of paragraphs. She talks a little bit about the ego here, and I wanted to find where that bit was. Uh, she says in this next dimension, there's no ego at all. There's no judgment. And, the ego is not part of the afterlife, which is a good thing. The ego is a powerful tool to have to deal with on a daily basis. It's constantly judging and labeling and worrying, and obviously it has a few little positives, like it gets happy and excited every now and then, but generally speaking, it's not a pleasant thing, I think, for most of us. And to know that we don't have to live with our minds in this next dimension, but still have the ability to be aware and to think is a good thought, I think. And she asks a question at the very end. She says, okay, well, look, she reaches this barrier in experience. She's told, look, you can't cross the area because after there is, once you do, you get into this place where you can't return. This is what happens when you die. You go into this even further, more advanced dimension of the afterlife. Obviously, we have never really had an experience of someone who's been there, because once you go there, you're not coming back here. But she asked, okay, look, I get it, I can't come there. Can someone tell me, or can I just get a quick glimpse of what it's like? And she said, in this area, the light, pure love, there's this feeling people are just totally accepting. There's abundance of forgiveness, creativity, all these things. I guess heaven like, and yeah, it gives us hope. It's a nice positive experience to lift your spirits up a little bit. Let's have a minute or so just of quietness. Everyone does actually sit down for a minute in silence. Doesn't actually skip through it. But it's good, I think, to practice a little bit of silence and presence. But I can relate to you if you don't just continue hearing or listening to the podcast. I'd probably do the same thing. But anyway, I like to do it. And if you don't, you've got that option to quickly skip through it. Yeah, I just thought I didn't really touch on this as I was going through it again. This lady is also given a little bit of information about reincarnation, and she says that in this case there is no real reincarnation. It's just we're living all our lives all at the same time. So we can be an alien on a distant planet while we're still living these lives as a human right now, and it doesn't really seem possible from our perspective, or it doesn't from mine, because how can that be? It just doesn't make sense. But there's so much about these experiences that are way beyond what we can grasp as humans. So much more going on out there, so many more multi-dimensional existences and beings, just so much stuff that we can't pick up as humans. And I guess if this was her experience, that she's seeing herself living in other lives in other places, and at the same time, I have heard this before. Um, it does, it does sort of put this confusion into the mix. Like, why would we do that? Why is it that I thought we lived one life at a time to sort of get better as time went by. I thought we just did it to evolve our own soul. We did one life and then we try another one and find a bit more meaning or purpose or direction in the next. Keep going until we get really evolved and connected to the love as beings in the physical realm. And I think that's a path a lot of us are on. I don't know. Seems like this is the path I've taken in this lifetime. I don't know if it's been a series of lives that I've had to get to this point, or are they all just randomly happening all at once, like this guy says. Yeah, it sort of runs contrary to what I thought had happened as well. And this is exactly what Laurie says. She says, why would we live all our lives? Can we be here to evolve through each life we live and learn to do better the next time around? But she says, and I guess this makes sense, she says the impression, the thoughts, the feelings she got as answers was, we're here, we're living our life right now to raise consciousness. So when we raise the vibration around us, we change the earth and we change the experience of life. So what that means to me is we're trying to, as a race of humans, get this spiritual evolution really rolling and raise this vibration we have, so those who come after us are able to experience less suffering and just enjoy this planet as the heaven-like place that it was designed to be. But we are still babies. We're so young, and in the grand scheme of things, as a species, we're doing well. We're getting there, and we're just having a few teething issues at the moment. I'm sure as time goes by, we'll be able to turn this place into a place we, God, all of us wanted it to be. Yeah, it makes me think like, what if if so when you leave this physical reality and you go into this next dimension, what life would you, and it is sort of structured like we can choose which life we want to choose. So like, what? Curious, what would you want to do? Would you want to come back here again as a human, or maybe a different animal like a dolphin or um, no, a lion in the jungle, anything? Or would you like to just be free? Are these options we have available to us? Is our next life already predetermined by our higher self as to what that's going to be? And is this whole, that, is there a big plan to where it's heading? And would you think about living a life on another planet as another physical being in another form in a galaxy we've never even heard of in a sort of body or species we couldn't even imagine without ability? I don't know. It's isn't it? And if you did start to come back, human, what would you like? Would you be the same sex as you were this time? Would you try a different personality? Would you be more beautiful? Would you go for someone who has some disabilities? Would you try a different occupation? Yeah, it's just interesting, isn't it, that these are potentially topics our souls talk about and organise and discuss before we choose to live the existence we're doing right now. And, that's fascinating to me. But yeah, let me know if you want to share what would do in another life, or what you'd like to try next. So just imagine it's true, because why not? It's a possibility, and as we know, seems like dreams and anything's possible in this other dimension. So yeah, if you'd like to share that with me or anything else, send me an email. My email is podafterlife@gmail.com. Yeah, but I think I'll leave it there. Thank you for listening. Hope everything is going well in your life, and yeah, just keep being yourself, because at your core you are an amazing, loving, intelligent, connected being. And always remember, you're not alone. There's other beings there that you can't see that are connected to you and are trying to guide you. So yeah, I urge you to ask for that guidance and keep an open mind as to how it comes into your life. Got to take notice, otherwise you won't. You got to at least keep an open mind and understand that anything's possible. And when you do that, you start to see miraculous things happen. So yeah, love you all. Thank you for listening. Talk to you next week. Goodbye.